There is a study, the study of adult development, which is the single most fascinating study of my lifetime. It's fascinating what they've been able to do here. 85 years long, by the way. What has been able to happen in tracking these people?
The study started in 1938, and it is the longest study of the same people across time that's ever been done. Over 2,000 people who've been studied year after year for their whole lives. One very privileged group and one very underprivileged group. The privileged group was a group of Harvard College sophomores. The other study was started at Harvard Law School, how some children from Boston's poorest and most troubled families were able to stay on good developmental paths and not get into trouble. Workers went to their homes, interviewed their parents, wrote notes about what was being served for dinner, what the disciplinary style was, all those things. We had John F. Kennedy, we had Ben Bradley, and so it wasn't wealth, it was not achievement, it wasn't fame. When our original participants got to be in their 80s, we asked them, as you look back on your life, what's your biggest regret? I wish I hadn't spent so much time at work, and I wish I had spent more time with the people I care about. Doing work that's meaningful to you, that does make you happy. That is a source of fulfillment.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. I have to tell you something. Today is a topic I've wanted to discuss on the show since it started, and I've been looking for an expert. I've been looking for the right person to deliver this information. Today's topic is happiness and well-being, longevity of your life as well, because they're correlated. And there is a study that is called the study of adult development, which is the single most fascinating study of my lifetime. I can't even believe this study exists. I literally can't. It's fascinating what they've been able to do here. And the man who was the current director of that study is my guest here today. He's also, among many of his accomplishments, he's the professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. So he must know a little bit about what he's talking about, right? And we're going to talk today about the all-time amazing study, 85 years long, by the way, guys, almost, on happiness with real evidence. This stuff is not going to be opinion. This is evidentiary information. So, Robert Waldinger, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here.
You have to start out and take your time, please, by explaining the study, first of all, because it's mind-blowing what the four directors, I think there's been four directors of the study, if I'm correct, what has been able to happen in tracking these people, who they are, how it started. Let's elaborate on that first.
Sure. So the study started in 1938, and it is the longest study of the same people across time that's ever been done. 724 original people, then brought in spouses, brought in children. So now we have two generations, over 2,000 people who've been studied year after year for their whole lives. And that's what's so unusual. Most research gets done in snapshots, just taking a snapshot today of something. And so what's rare is that the study has continued. Usually studies close down because too many people drop out.
Yep.
Do you want me to tell you a little bit about what's in the study?
Yeah, the first thing I think is first, because it's two very different groups of people that you studied, these men. I think it's important to know the backgrounds of the people that were studied so that the information is applicable to the people listening or watching.
Absolutely. So started out with one very privileged group and one very underprivileged group. The privileged group was a group of Harvard College sophomores, 19-year-old guys who their deans thought were fine, upstanding young men, and it was a study of sort of normal development from adolescence into young adulthood. So, of course, if you want to study normal development, you study all white guys from Harvard. Like, you don't do that.
Right.
So we're constantly having to explain to NIH why they should still fund us. And then the other study was started at Harvard Law School, and it was a study of juvenile delinquency, but it was a study of how some children from Boston's poorest and most troubled families, how those kids were able to stay on good developmental paths and not get into trouble. And so it was a study of thriving, but a study of children who were born with so many strikes against them.
Yeah, the fascinating part is some of those neighborhoods are where I was born. And so what drew, right. So that's what drew me to this study, is because I'm at a stage of my life now where I do interact with people that have come from privileged backgrounds in their life, and obviously I have some privilege based on, my ethnicity, etc. But to interact with different people, and I've always had this fascination. Do people from these wealthy backgrounds or privileged backgrounds end up being happier than people from a not so privileged background or a neighborhood like where I grew up? And
Yeah.
the data is
Do you
pretty
want the
remarkable.
spoiler or no?
Yeah, let's do the spoiler first, and then we're going to talk about what actually leads to real happiness, everybody, today. But spoiler alert is what I'm really open to knowing myself.
Okay, the spoiler is that the well-to-do privileged people were not on average happier than the inner city underprivileged group. No different.
Well, no different though. So the underprivileged group wasn't necessarily happier than the privileged group either, though. Correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
And there was variation. We had some really happy people in both groups, some really unhappy people in both groups, and everything in between.
Okay, so one last thing I want everybody to understand, then we're going to get to the data. Because, listen, ultimately, the game of life, I had a situation happen, I'll share this with you, several years ago. I've had the good fortune of building wealth in my life, and I was building this very beautiful mansion, the first one I ever built. And it was a very stressful day, and I was in a bad mood, and I was angry. And I walked into what was the kitchen of this home that was being built for me, really angry with the contractor and life, and you just all about me in the moment. And as I walked in, the gentlemen that were working on my kitchen, the finished carpenters, were all people from Mexico, men from Mexico, and they had their mariachi music playing, and they were dancing and singing and doing work that they were excellent at doing, and loving their craft and being good at it, and enjoying the company and the other relationships of the other men that were working with them. And I remember watching them thinking, they're not making any money. They're sending most of this money back home to their family just to survive. Frankly, probably most of them aren't even in our country legally at the time. And I remember thinking to myself, if the game of life is happiness, they're winning and I'm losing.
Yeah.
And it was a really watershed moment for me in my life that I think this work really points to as well. And so that's why your work matters so much to me. One last thing I want to have them understand too is the nature of the study, everybody. I'll let you elaborate, but this is not just about sending somebody a survey and they answer it back. Some of the intimacy of even the connections that you have with these people in their homes even. So elaborate on that so they know the depth of the study.
Oh yeah. So when they came into the study, all boys and young men, workers went to their homes, interviewed their parents, wrote notes about what was being served for dinner, what the disciplinary style was, all those things. And then elaborate medical exams of the young men, psychological exams. And then as they went through their lives, we began to bring online different methods of studying well-being. So audio taping them, videotaping them, talking to their partners about their biggest fears. We drew blood for DNA, which I think is so cool because in 1938, DNA wasn't even imagined. And here we were studying it, putting people in the MRI scanner and scanning their brains while we showed them different pictures. We brought them into our laboratory and deliberately stressed them out and then saw how they recovered from stress. So all of this as different angles on the same big question about what makes people thrive as they go through life.
How do you measure happiness? That was the last thing I wanted to understand. How do you know if they're happy?
Well, we asked people, that's one way, but we had people who said they were happy but didn't look happy. So we asked other people, do you think your partner's happy? Do you think your dad's happy? So we asked that. We also videotaped them, like having an argument with their partners, and then watched, like, how angry did they get? Was their affection still there? So we did all kinds of things as a way to get at happiness from different angles.
It's amazing, you guys. I told you all. So here we go. Now we're going to get into it. Now we've laid the groundwork. So what's it turn out? Let's not a complete spoiler alert because there's so many layers to this. But what makes one happy? Is it the pursuit of a goal? Is it wealth, achievement, religion? What are the things that you found make somebody happy?
Yeah. Well, we found that it wasn't those things. So it wasn't wealth. It was not achievement. It wasn't fame. And we had people who had all those things in our study. Some of the people, we had John F. Kennedy. We had Ben Bradley, longtime editor of the Washington Post. And I can only tell you those names because they talked about it themselves. Otherwise, we protect everybody's privacy. But wealth, fame, achievement didn't do it. Religion didn't do it. Now, what that means is it didn't mean that they made you unhappy. It meant that wealth, fame, high achievement, religion are simply different from well-being, different from happiness. Okay? Now, that said, what that means is we have famous people who were happy, famous people who were unhappy, all the way down the line, right? Now, that said, what we also know is that having your basic material needs met is crucial to your happiness. So, but when they do studies of this, they've studied, well, how much does your happiness go up as you make more money? And what they find is that your happiness does go up until you reach about $75,000 a year annual household income. This is a few years ago in the US. But basically, to have your basic needs met. And that then, after that, as you make more and more money, up to 75 million, a billion, your happiness doesn't go up much. A little bit, not really very much.
Interesting.
And that's important.
I like the distinction you made. What is important too is that happiness is an emotion. So as your wealth goes up, you may potentially be able to contribute more, give more. There are things of that nature, protect people. So it's not that there aren't positive emotions correlated with achievement or wealth, but happiness turns out not to be one of them.
Well, and let me qualify that a little bit, Ed, because it's important. So getting a badge of achievement, so the ultimate achievement, the Nobel Prize, doesn't make you happier or less happy. But doing work that's meaningful to you, that does make you happy. That is a source of fulfillment.
Okay.
So it's not the badge itself, but doing the work. So let's say, you're bringing a lot of ideas to a lot of people. And I expect that means something to you. I expect you care about that.
You're right.
And we think of that as a source of well-being, a source of happiness.
Well, I think it's correlated to where you're going, though. I think contribution involves something in life, which is other human beings. And so the nature of your work is so profound because if people can really understand this, they can link it back to the contributions and achievements of their life because they involve where you believe real wealth comes from after this study, which is where I want you to really elaborate on this because I think everyone needs to hear this. This is it, guys. This is a moment in many of your lives where it's going to confirm with you intuitively probably what you already probably think, but maybe needs confirmation and maybe needs more intention. A little bit more focus. I think sometimes you think, I'm going to be more intentional about getting more money, or I'm going to be more intentional about getting a bigger house, or getting this promotion. And when I get there, then I'm going to be happier than I am now. And we put our intentions there, potentially most of our lives and many of the people in the study, missing the very thing that would have brought them the emotion everyone on earth wants more of. You don't want the jet. You want the jet because you think it'll make you happier. You don't want to be fit and super ripped and attractive. You think it'll make you happier. So what we're really seeking, that conversation behind everything, in my opinion, is we want to be happier. And so what is that thing? You go ahead and elaborate.
Well, that thing is our relationships with other people. What we found studying these thousands of lives is that the people who had the warmest connections with other people and who made that a priority in their lives, they were happiest as they went through their lives, but also they stayed healthiest and they lived longer.
Interesting.
And that's the thing. Actually, we didn't believe that when we started to find it. In the 1980s, our data began to show this, and we thought, oh, this might be a fluke. This might not be real. And then other studies began to find the same thing. Because the question was, it stands to reason I'll be happier if I have happy relationships. But how could good relationships make it less likely that you get coronary artery disease or type 2 diabetes or arthritis? How could that be? So now we've been spending the last 10 years in our lab, and many other labs have been studying this, trying to understand how do relationships actually get into your body and shape your physiology. And so that's what we're studying.
Is it the amount of relationships you have or the quality of the ones that you maintain in your life?
It's not the amount. So there's no set number. Like one of the things we know is that we're all like, some of us are introverts, shy, some of us are extroverts. No, nothing wrong with being shy. And we know that introverts want fewer people in their lives, that being with a lot of people is exhausting for introverts. And that's perfectly healthy and normal. So there's no set number of friends or connections you should have. What we do believe is that everybody needs at least one or two relationships where they feel like this person will be there for me if I really need them. That at one point we asked our original participants, we said, who could you call in the middle of the night if you were sick or scared? List everybody. And most of our folks could list, several people, but some of them could not list anyone. And some of those people were married and they couldn't list anyone.
No way. Wow.
Yeah. So we think that everybody, whether you're shy or a party animal, you need at least one or two people who are your go-to safety net.
Yo, Cédric, comment ça va?
So this is correlated not only to your happiness but your longevity. By the
Comment
way,
ça va, mon
the name
ami?
of Dr. Waldinger's book is The Good Life: Lessons from the World's Longest Scientific Study on Happiness. And he also has a TED Talk that's been viewed just a couple times, like 40 something million times. And I want to share something with the audience, with you.
Nice,
too.
man.
I want to confirm what you're saying.
Très bien.
I think oftentimes in the pursuit of our achievements,
Je veux
some of our most
que
important relationships are sacrificed.
tu es
And they may not be
heureux.
sacrificed. I want everybody to
Je
hear
suis
this,
bien,
'cause you're
je
all
vais bien,
achievers
merci.
listening to this show. They're not sacrificed like they go
Tout va
away
bien,
altogether. But the intimacy level, the depth of it, is what's sacrificed. And it's the unknown. You don't know how deep a
Oui,
relationship
bonne
or
semaine,
connection
merci,
could be
merci.
when you've been
Bien
pursuing something
tranquille.
other than that. In other words, you say, no, I have good friendships in my life. I have some rich friendships. How much richer would they be if it was your intention
Et
to be
vous?
deeper and richer? And I'll give you an example. I think I'm happy, but I'm always transparent with my audience. The last 5 or 8 years has been a dramatic acceleration in my life of external achievements.
Au
Whether
top,
that be
oh, nice.
TV shows or wealth or notoriety, whatever it might be. Books.
Moi, je vois quoi comme conférence?
All my life I've been achieving,
Non,
but the last, call it decade, has been accelerated. And I asked
sur mon
myself,
YouTube, oui,
preparing for this interview, if I went
j'ai
back
mis
10
une
years,
vidéo de
forget the
mon chef
achievements or the
ici
wealth. I had
qui
wealth and
fait
achievements then. I just have more now.
de l'assurance
Was I
et
happier
les
than I am
investissements
And you know the truth, I think I
pour
was.
la
I think there was a measure
sécurité de
of
vie.
more bliss and joy in my life, and the reason it was just invisible. is that I
Oh,
just
tu dis
got
aquí,
so
ici maintenant? Oui,
just
c'est une chose
that the
pour,
depth of my relationship, I maintain them
pour
like you
quelqu'un
should.
de
You know what I
parler
mean? Are you okay?
de
You check. But
être
it was
euh,
deeper 10 years ago. It was more,
heureux.
frankly, more time with friends, more time with my family. And I don't think all this external achievement has made me happier. It doesn't mean I'm not happy. It means that after reading your work, it's confirmed for me, I need to be more intentional with my relationships with my family and my dearest friends in my life. And so if I'm saying that to you all, I want to confirm the work that we're discussing here. So I just wanted to share that. Do you hear that often from people that have achieved, I don't know, whatever they think they wanted to achieve?
We hear it so often. In fact, when our original participants got to be in their 80s, we asked them, as you look back on your life, what's your biggest regret? And the most common regret, way more common than any others, was, I wish I hadn't spent so much time at work, and I wish I had spent more time with the people I care about.
Is that right?
Yeah. So really
Oui,
important.
oui, oui, certainement,
It is, everybody.
certainement.
And by the way, what I'm saying to you is, I'm not
Certainement,
saying
mon
that I don't have
ami.
deep friendships. All my friends listening to this, I do. I'm not saying that you don't listening or watching.
J'ai le vouloir de retourner au Aztec Tableau. Maintenant, je suis en
And you're just sort of in
33e
mode
place.
You're in growth mode in your
Oui,
business.
certainement,
You're in
je
growth
vais,
mode
je
in
vais
your
revenir
wealth.
là.
Maybe your
Maintenant,
body, you're growing, right? Which is what
je
we all want to
travaille
do.
du
But are
mon
you just
travail
kind of
nouveau,
maintaining your
du assurance
relationships?
ta vie
Are
et
your
les investissements
relationships
avec
growing to the extent that the
les
other
personnes,
areas
mes
of your
amis.
life, do
Je,
you look at it
je
like a
peux travailler
category?
avec
For
les
me,
gars au
I'm growing
Canada et
me. I have great
aussi.
relationships, but
Oh,
I've
merci,
grown, my
merci, mon ami.
achievements have
Yeah, thanks,
grown,
man.
my
Merci, merci.
fitness has
Oh,
grown
thanks,
at
man.
an extent much greater than my
Merci,
relationships
merci.
have grown. If I'm being
Mais je
candid.
veux être
And you
mieux
know
là,
what?
mais
It's
maintenant je
it's
travaille
not
de
worth that. Yeah, I think you can
mon
have all
nouveau
of it,
travail
but you got to be
d'assurance de
intentional
vie
about those relationships. Look like you
avec
wanted to say something about
les
that.
Canadiens et
Well, I was
Américains.
just going to riff on what you're just saying, which is
Je ne
we
peux
started
pas
talking
vendre les
about
produits
something in
avec
the
les
book that we
internationaux.
call social
Si oui,
fitness.
My next question.
je
Great.
parlerai
And
avec
so we make
ça
it
de
it's a
vous, avec
direct
toi, mais
analogy. We mean it to be an
c'est
analogy
seulement en
of
Amérique du
physical
Nord
fitness.
maintenant.
The idea
Mais
being that it's a practice.
j'ai mis des
we go to
vidéos
the
sur
gym
mon
today, we
YouTube
don't come home and say,
sur
"Good,
ça
I'm done. I
récemment
don't ever have to do that
en
again."
anglais
And what we're finding
pour
is
votre
that
intérêt.
the people who are the happiest and the healthiest and the most fulfilled are the people who make it a practice, an ongoing
Oui, j'ai besoin de
practice
faire
to
la
attend
version
to their
française.
relationships in just the way
Ça
you're
va être très bien
pointing
si
to
je
it.
fais ça aussi portugais
You know,
et
and
espagnol.
I've
Ça va
had to
très
learn
bien.
to do this in my own
Ah,
life. Like,
merci,
I
merci.
could work all the time. I'm a professor.
Pas
And,
nécessaire,
I
pas.
always have homework, and
Mais
I could work all
j'aime
day
ça.
long,
Ah
all
yes,
night
oui,
long.
oui,
And
certainement. Je veux faire
I've had to
la
make
même chose
myself
en français
deliberately
et
think,
en
okay, who do I want to see?
portugais et espagnol.
Reach out to them, say, let's go
Je
take
pense
a
que
walk.
ce sera très
Let's get
bien.
together for
C'est
coffee.
beaucoup de travail, mais
That I didn't used
ça,
to do that. And
c'est
one of the
bien.
things we see
It's
as
worth
we
it.
track people's
Cool.
lives
Ça
is
va
that
venir, mon ami.
perfectly
Je
good
commence des
relationships wither
lentement.
away because of
Je commence
neglect if you
lentement.
don't pay attention to them.
I'm just thinking
C'est un
of a few of
changement
mine as you're saying
d'identité.
that, and breaks my heart. Let me ask you a question.
Ah, parfois.
Social media,
Mais
the day we're in
pas-
technology, it seems to me that
Pas
we can
récemment.
have more
Je veux passer
relationships
par là,
in text.
par là,
You
mais
can DM
certainement.
somebody or make a post and people like it. But I feel like the depth of the relationship is nowhere near as deep as the ones that we have in person. Has there been any data, or do you have any feelings, just your own thoughts of looking at this, of how this has changed or accelerated even in the last decade, where the depth of relationships maybe aren't what they were even 20 years ago when we physically had to usually see one another to be connected?
Yeah. Well, that's actually a burning question. Like, lots of people want to know the answer to that. And so there is some research. It's still too early to know. We know
vous,
that things
tu,
are filtered out from our relationships.
Vous jouez le
That
007 aussi?
emotion that we can communicate to each other
Maintenant,
in person can't be
durant ce temps,
communicated in the same
tu
way
m'as dit que tu
in
as
a
acheté
virtual call. So we
les
know
choses
that, but
pour
we're not
le
exactly
rejouer.
sure how it works or what gets lost in the translation. There is some research that might be useful here, which is that we do know that how we use social media matters in terms of our happiness and our well-being.
Okay.
So that if you use social media actively to connect with people, well-being usually goes up.
Yeah, man.
If you
Mario
use
Kart.
social media passively,
C'est
just
génial.
consuming content, it often goes down. So,
Interesting.
example,
That's interesting.
if you so I have a friend who connected with his old elementary school friends during the pandemic, and they connected on Zoom, and they have coffee every Sunday morning on Zoom, and they are thrilled to be connected again, right? So that's an active use of social media to connect. Alternatively, if we scroll through other people's Instagram feeds, we curate our lives for each other on social media. I post my happy pictures, right? I don't post the pictures where I wake up feeling lost and depressed or hungover. I don't do that, right? So when we look at these curated lives, it's really easy to get the impression that, God, everybody else is having this great life, and I'm the only person who doesn't have it figured out. So that kind of passive consumption of social media lowers well-being. It can make us more depressed, more anxious, and what we know is that teenagers are particularly susceptible to that.
Interesting. So you said hungover, and I wanted to go there. So it's almost like you're reading my mind. You went to social fitness, and So I'm reading a little bit of the data or stuff that you've talked about as relates to divorce or even depression and the correlations with alcohol.
Je suis un
So
fan de
I'll have you
vous.
talk about that a little bit on both. The interesting reverse correlation
Non,
on
je
depression
n'étais pas
surprised me.
en France.
And
La
that
dernière
I
fois
think
que
you said
j'étais
that
en
alcohol
France,
use
c'était 2002.
preceded depression in most people, not the other way around.
Enfin,
but
plus de
also
20
alcohol
ans.
use was connected to divorce. So share that with everybody.
Je suis allé au
So
Paris
the
et
alcohol use preceding
Mont
depression is
Saint-Michel.
kind of cool. So one of the things when you follow people year after year, you get to see what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? So if you ask people, alcoholism and depression often go together. And if you ask people who have both problems, which came first, they'll say to you, oh, I got depressed and then I started to drink.
Yes.
But when we follow them, we see the reverse. That mostly people start to drink. We know that alcohol is a central nervous system depressant, and that the alcohol preceded the depression. So that's one way that this kind of longitudinal research can unpack a little of the chicken and egg question that we often ask of things. But then there was a second thing you just asked
About divorce, that somehow there was
Divorce.
a correlation with alcohol and divorce, isn't there? With the
Oh
group?
yeah. Oh yeah. When we looked at the marriages that broke up among our 724 families, in more than half of them, either one person or both people were alcoholic, and that was a fundamental force in the breakup.
Interesting.
And we know that alcoholism wreaks havoc on relationships.
Is the what about marriage? So are the people that stayed with one person all of their life, did they end up becoming happier than the people that have been divorced? Or is there even a correlation at all to marriage and happiness?
There isn't.
Wow.
So there is actually no, I'm sorry, let me back up. There is a correlation between marriage and happiness.
Okay.
That
C'est la
married
vérité.
people are on average happier than people who are single. But it's not that huge, and there is a longevity benefit to being married or partnered.
Okay.
Probably because you're with someone who reminds you to eat well, who reminds you to take your medicine, who tells you not to drink too much. It helps having somebody there. But then,
Et ton fils,
marriage,
tout va avec ton
what we
fils et
know
votre
is that
famille?
really acrimonious marriages are probably
Semble
worse
qu'il
for your health
il aime la
than
vie
breaking
avec vous, toi et les
we
diversions.
know that marriage works
Et
all kinds of
d'apprendre.
different ways. Our unhappiest man in our study, and we tell his story in the book, he had two really unhappy marriages. So the first one was unhappy, but the second one was no better. So some people get divorced, marry again, and it doesn't work the second time. Other people find that it really makes a huge difference to move on, find a person to whom you're better suited, and that really does increase your happiness. So as with so many things we study, one size never fits all. Some people who divorce and remarry are happier, and some are not.
I want to ask you about kids. I want to step back, everybody. I want to just, because I always want to emphasize something. This should be telling you the massive priority you should be putting on your relationships. Okay, just it's got to be. And for a lot of you that are busy like me, this may seem sort of cold, but maybe you should schedule it. We schedule our business meetings, right? We schedule our workouts. We schedule these things. Why not be scheduling? You look like you wanted to agree with me there. You schedule your relationships in your calendar. Show me your schedule, and I'll probably show you your life, your character, your priorities, what matters to you, and what you'll actually achieve.
You are totally right. I'll give you my own example. So my co-author, Mark Schultz, and I have been research collaborators for over 25 years. But what we do is we schedule a call every Friday noon. We schedule an hour-and-a-half phone call. And we don't just talk about research or writing this book. We talk about our kids. We talk about our marriages. We talk about, what shows we're watching on Netflix. We do all that.
Yep.
And the fact that it's a schedule means that we're going to do it regularly unless one of us has to cancel. So scheduling, Ed, is like you don't have to do it with many people, but maybe there are one or two people in your life who you just say, we're going to have a call every week or even every month just to make sure we stay current with each other.
When I was young, I would watch my dad, and my dad was an alcoholic who got sober. But I always felt like I wished my dad had more rich friendships. As a child, I remember wishing my daddy had more really good friends. And I would watch other dads of my friends. And you know what they had? They had like a bowling league they belonged to, or a Bible study they went to, or they were in a softball team, or I remember one of the moms, it was way back in the day, but she had like a yoga class she went to. And that was a regularly scheduled relationship time that my dad just didn't have in his schedule. And so my dad had a good life. He achieved. He was a good person. But and ironically, what changed my dad's life was getting sober. And then he became a member of AA. And ironically, I'm sure AA was great. My dad went to 4 or 5 meetings a week his entire life. And I remember thinking, why do you go? Is it to keep alcohol away? And I think that was a little bit of it, but that's not what it was. It was the relationships.
Exactly.
It was the relationships.
And the reason why AA works, like why is it so hard to stop drinking if you are addicted? Well, it's not just because of the addiction to alcohol. That goes away pretty quickly. It's that your life has been taken over by alcohol and you don't have anything else in your life often.
Yes.
So what they do is they AA did for your dad what it does for so many people was it begins to provide them with a tribe, with a club, with a little group of people who they can count on.
That's exactly 1,000,000,000% right. And I attribute that to his sobriety. There's a service element of the program, there's a forgiveness element, there's the steps. But overriding it all for my dad was, this was a place for my dad to have relationships. There's a community he belonged to. And he did it regularly. And I watched this man who didn't have a lot of deep friendships for the first 35 years of his life. Really didn't. And by the way, his relationship was alcohol. That was his best friend.
Exactly.
But it changed my dad, and he had a very rich life. Now, speaking of dads and children, now you got the second study you're doing that's connected to the first one. Listen to this, everyone, because I'm fascinated. Of the children of the members. This is like a movie, everyone. Can you imagine a movie where you can see the pictures of a young man at 19 who's in South Boston somewhere with no dad in his house, and he's underprivileged, and another young man who's 19 at Harvard, and you track their entire lives. It's fascinating work.
Yeah.
But now that you're starting to study their children, is there a correlation between unhappy people having unhappy children or happy people and the happiness of their children? Have you seen any correlation there?
We haven't studied it quite like that, but I'll give you
love to know.
What's up, Baron? How you doing, man?
Yeah. I would like to know too. It's
Big
so
Baron.
complicated that there's a lot of ways to do that, and so we're doing
Nice being
parts
here,
of it. So let me tell you about one part.
Okay.
We looked at do children have happy marriages if their parents had happy marriages?
Okay.
And what we found was that there wasn't that strong a connection, except for, I believe it was women whose fathers had happy marriages. That there's something about that, and I have to go back and look at the data. But so it's kind of a specific connection. But what we
Baron,
find
that was a
is it
hilarious
stands
video
to
of that
reason
of that
if your
kid
model
freaking
of
out,
marriage that you grew up with
calling
is
you
one
ugly.
where people get along and are good partners, you're more likely to have that. But your question, Ed, which is a fabulous question.
He was having a
generally,
breakdown,
are
man.
people happier?
He needed to tell
I can't give you
somebody.
the answer to that from my study right now. I believe it's knowable, and we got to get to that.
I would love to know that. I wonder also if you could determine
And you told the
overall
world.
happiness in our culture now compared to different times. And did you see any of that change? And I know the people changed over time. But is it more difficult or easier to be happy now? In other words, the children, their data similar percentages of happy and unhappy
10 out of 10 video.
now compared to then?
We did not do the measurements in the same way, so it's hard to compare. But what I will tell you is that when they've started studying happiness really in the last 40 years in a more rigorous way, and they
Thank you.
find that
Oh,
levels of
nice, man.
happiness
Hell
are
yeah,
going
man.
down in developed
Fuck yeah.
countries. And the paradox is that as gross domestic product goes up, as
amazing.
we get wealthier as nations, happiness levels goes down. So there are cultural trends taking us away from well-being. Probably that has a lot to do with relationships. That what
Hell
we
yeah, man.
know is
Fucking
that there are
hilarious.
these
It's like make a
strong
meme.
cultural trends.
Becomes a meme.
toward investing less in other people, investing less in our communities, not joining clubs, not going to houses of worship, not volunteering in the community, not inviting people over as often, not having family dinners. I mean, all of this.
Jesus.
It's been well documented for the last 50 years.
So everybody, what you just heard are the things to do toward that
Yeah.
offer to keep it. What is the wiser model of reacting to an emotionally challenging situation? What is that wiser?
Well, it's actually a cool model developed by a psychologist named Ken Dodge. It was to help, actually it was to help kids, but then he realized, oh my gosh, this can really help adults. It's basically a way of slowing down something that happens where you find yourself puzzled and starting to make assumptions. So let's say somebody says something to you and you're confused and you don't know why they said it. What the model says is we're really quick to fill in the blanks. So if you say something and I'm puzzled by it, I might start thinking, you're dissing me. You're being mean to me, right? Or you said this because of this, right? And so what we do, the mind does this.
Yep.
The mind fills in a blank. And so we often tend to fill in the blank with something negative. And what the wiser model asks us to do is just slow everything down. So if you say something and I say, oh my God, that was offensive, to stop and just look and say, well, wait a minute, what's Ed doing? What was he thinking? Maybe he didn't mean that, or maybe he said it for this reason, or maybe it's not about me. Maybe Ed's having a bad day, right? And then to think about the possibilities, then to think about, okay, given that, what do I want here? Do I want to just get mad at Ed and tell him he's being a jerk? Well, I don't know if I want to do that because I like Ed and I don't want to lose his friendship. So what else could I do? So it's slowing down, and then it's trying out a more considered response when we can, and then seeing how it goes. Like, how did that response work, as opposed to just telling you you're a jerk and walking away, right? So it's that way of just slowing everything down so that you don't send the nasty email. You don't text the thing that you're going to come to regret. You just slow everything down back and say, okay, what might be going on here? And maybe this isn't even about me.
Interesting. Does wiser stand for something? WISER? Yes. What's it stand for?
So the first one is watch, meaning watch what's happening. So if I look at you when you said that thing, okay, what was going on for Ed? Like what, and then interpret. So think of all the possibilities, not just my first interpretation, which is Ed's being mean to me. And then, so watch, interpret, select. Think about how I want to respond, okay? I could do different things.
Yo, Sandoval, what's up, man?
How
you doing, dude? Welcome to being here, man, dude.
For the long term. Engage, meaning make that response.
I'm here.
So
I'm your boy, and is here.
Ed, what's going on here? How come
For you, Sandoval.
Instead of
what's up, man?
jerk? And then reflect. So see how that worked. Did it work better that I simply was curious with you rather than calling you a name? Yeah. And then reflect. So you learn from your experience.
Yeah.
So
it's almost curiosity over judgment and assessment. Exactly. It's really that. So now I want to challenge something. I want to ask you about it too, but it's something I thought when I was looking at the work.
Right. And so what we do, the mind does this. Yep. The mind fills in a blank. And so we often tend to fill in the blank with something negative. And what the wiser model asks us to do is just slow everything down. So if you say something and I say, oh my God, that was offensive, to stop and just look and say, well, wait a minute. What's Ed doing? What was he thinking? Maybe he didn't mean that, or maybe he said it for this reason, or maybe it's not about me. Maybe Ed's having a bad day, right? And then to think about the possibilities, then to think about, okay, given that, what do I want here? Do I want to just get mad at Ed and tell him he's being a jerk? Well, I don't know if I want to do that because I like Ed and I don't want to lose his friendship. So what else could I do? So it's slowing down. And then it's trying out a more considered response when we can. And then seeing how it goes. Like, how did that response work? As opposed to just telling you you're a jerk and walking away, right? So it's that way of just slowing everything down so that you don't send the nasty email. You don't
Right.
you don't text the thing that you're going to come to regret. You just slow everything down
Okay.
back and say, okay, what might be going on here? And maybe this isn't even about me.
Interesting. Is wiser stand for something? WISER?
Yes.
What's it stand for?
It's so the first one is watch, meaning watch what's happening. So if I look at you when you said that thing, okay, what was going on for Ed? Like what, and then interpret. So think of all the possibilities, not just my first interpretation, which is Ed's being mean to me. And then, so watch, interpret, select. Think about how I want to respond. Okay, I could do different things. Choose the one that I want to work for the long term. Engage, meaning make that response. So I'll engage with you, and I might say, Ed, what's going on here? How come you said that? Instead of you jerk.
Right.
And then reflect. So see how that worked. Did it work better that I simply was curious with you rather than calling you a name?
Yeah.
And then reflect. So you learn from your experience.
Yeah.
So
it's almost curiosity over judgment and
Yeah,
assessment.
exactly.
It's really that. So now I want to challenge something. I want to ask you about it too. But it's
Curiosity
something
over
I thought when I was
judgment.
looking at the work. So there's a correlation between happiness and health, longevity. Is there any correlation between the absence of health the other way and lack of happiness? Meaning, how do we know it's not the other way, or is there a different correlation? Meaning, someone who's not healthy is typically unhappier than someone who is healthy, and that our health and taking care of our bodies and wellness are another element of happiness in addition to the relationships.
That is exactly correct. And so you're pointing to something important in research, which is that correlation does not equal causation.
Right.
So you're saying, wait a minute, it may not be that good relationships cause better health. It may be that better health allows you to have good relationships because you got the energy to reach out and all that. You are right. It goes both ways. So this is what we call in the research a bidirectional relationship, a two-way relationship.
Okay.
Now, what we can do, because we follow people longitudinally, is we can do a chicken and egg analysis. And we do find that people who have good relationships can stay healthier over time compared to the people who have bad relationships. So we can do some of that unpacking of which direction it goes in, but you're absolutely right. It goes both ways.
Interesting. What is something someone can do strategically, tactically,
Good, man. It was a good
to be
week.
better at
It's
their
a good week, dude. How are
relationships?
you, my man?
In other words, I think sometimes
It's good to put more
I
materials
take for granted
together
that people know how to
for
do
the
it. I'm
life
thinking about it even
insurance
with me right now. I'm not sure that
and
I have all the
investments
tools. In fact,
and
I know I don't have all the tools on how to build
I
doable
made like a
relationships. What's a few
presentation.
things somebody could do?
Absolutely, absolutely. So first of all, maybe
Got some
just
YouTube videos
do a
up on my
little
YouTube
bit of
channel.
reflecting, like, what do I have in my
Just sharing
relationships? What am I
stuff.
getting?
Yeah,
that I
it's
want?
it's
And so,
cool, man.
we get all kinds of things. We get people who we have fun with, people who we confide
We're moving
in.
towards work good.
My neighbor
In
loans
Houston,
me tools.
what
He
what a
always has the right
legend.
tool, and I never
What
have
a
the right
fucking
tool for what I
legend.
need to fix in my house. Right?
What are you doing in
So
Houston,
there's
man?
that kind of relationship, right? There's
Miami,
people
the
you play
MIAO
basketball
to
with, right?
fucking
So think about
Houston.
what do you have, and what would you like more of? And then think
Dirty
to yourself,
Dirty?
well, is there
What's the
somebody
Dirty
I
Dirty? Is
could
that Atlanta?
cultivate that with who I already
Is that
know?
Houston?
Or are there ways I might be able to
I mean that
find
in
new
the
people
nicest
who I
way.
could do more of that with?
Visiting Twitch friends? That's dope,
So
man.
that's
Cool,
the first
bro.
step. What do I
Hell yeah,
have,
man.
and what would I like more of? And then,
That's fun. That's nice.
particularly with the relationships we
Thanks for
already
tuning.
have,
Thanks for tuning in here, man.
this
Is he?
does not have to be some
He's on
heavy
Twitch.
lifting thing. Like you can
Does he have
do
a channel,
tiny
or she have a
actions
channel?
that will
If not, that's
start
cool.
building
If
those
people are
social
legends
fitness
on
muscles.
Twitch without a channel.
So if you think about it, when you're done listening to this show, okay, think about somebody you miss, somebody you haven't seen in a while, and you'd like to be in contact with. Take out your phone, send them a text.
I think just
send
write
them an
his
email
name.
saying, I was just
Write his
thinking
name
of
in
you
chat, and then I'll
wanted
or
to say
Twitch.
hi.
So usually it's
That's all you
always
have to say.
twitch.tv/
See
and the
what you
person's
get
name.
back. And granted, you won't get back something positive every time, but way more often than not, you're gonna get good stuff back. And some people, I've done this actually sometimes with an audience when I'm giving a talk, and I ask, during the question and answer, did anybody get a text back? And people raise their hands and they say, oh my gosh, I made a date next week with my friend to have dinner. Somebody else said, my friend had surgery and he was so glad I reached out. So there are these. So again, my point is just small actions can really pay off, especially if we do them regularly.
I totally agree with you. And by the way, what that does is it makes someone think you finally see them again. I'm writing a book right now. I'm not going to get into all of it because it's on the show, but I'm writing a book right now called "Let Me Tell You About You."
Nice,
and
man.
there's a lot of depth to it. It's about who we are as people. But one of the things that I do as a friend, I share with everybody is I tell my
I don't know if his
friends
name
about it. So when
Joshua.
I'm with them, and some of my friends look forward to, hey man, do
XD.
it, and it sounds corny at first, but
Cool,
I don't
bro.
just say, hey man, I love you, or hey bro, I'm so good, we're glad we're friends, or hey sister, it's so good to see you. I'll tell them why. And I think it's a little bit of a level more like, what I love about you, brother, is how much you love God, or how dedicated
a
you are
cool
to your
channel,
family,
man.
or how hilarious you are, or the depth of your intellect, depending on the person. And I find that when you just take it a little deeper, then, hey man, it's good to see you. Let me tell you why it's so good to see you. Every time I see you, you bring a smile to my face. You got that thing about you. It just deepens the connection
Jacked.
with people. And I think people are
cut.
yearning for a deeper connection with other
cut.
people. And it's a
I
subtle
knew
way to
it.
do
Yeah,
it.
you know it. He's boxed.
And what
It's
you're
cut.
doing, Ed, when you do that,
Hell yeah, man.
is you're making people feel like you see them.
I was
for who
just
they
saying
are,
I need a
right? So
punching
to say
bag,
I love
man.
you is wonderful, but
I
to
need some
say,
resistance
here's
training.
what's so great about you that I see.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Somebody really feels known.
I have
That's what
a
we really yearn
what's
for.
it called?
We yearn to
Power
be
tower.
known
Yeah,
by somebody.
you just made the move, by the way, because a lot of you are listening to this audio, but you just touched your heart when you
A
said
power
it.
tower, and I can
And
hang a
amazing, because
100
that's usually what
pounder.
happens. Is that it's
And I don't want a lot of
heart
movement with my
connection.
100
I think I
pounder.
love you. Hey,
A lot of
good to
people
see
want
you.
to
I
sway
think
back
that's
and
like
forth. I might even
almost
tie it on the
head-to-head.
bottom.
Hey, just so you know,
I might
I
even
love
tie
you.
the 100
When you
pounder
go a
to the
little
bottom,
bit
not like
deeper
super
with
tight, just a
something
little
that's
bit.
true about them. By the way,
And just punch,
also when
man.
it's something they intuitively
And
kind
kick.
of know is true, and you touch
Think
on
it'd
it,
be
like,
good.
man, the way you problem
And
solve, or
put it right
you're
there.
so nurturing, you care so deeply.
Hell yeah,
And they
man.
go, I do have that
Cool,
about me,
man.
don't
Nice.
I? And it's a heart-to-heart connection. I think that it deepens our
That's
relationships.
dope, bro.
All right, a couple more things. I'm like so fascinated by this, and you're so
Also,
awesome.
shout out Sandoval Christian's
What
channel.
about our
His
intimate
channel,
one,
he
though?
does health
So,
workout streams.
our personal, intimate
Just get on my
relationships.
follow.
So, to me, there's
My brother,
there's
cool, bro.
friendships, and
I
those
did,
are
my man.
wonderful. And I've had people on the
did,
show
dude,
that
I
have
did,
actually
I did.
submitted that those relationships are of the same priority as the one in
Yeah,
our
man.
life.
If I got a
And
punching bag right
submit
here,
that
a
there's
100
some
pounder, I
validity
think
to
it
that.
could work.
But
I
the
think it'd be good.
proximity to your intimate relationship is much greater and has to have a deeper impact. It just has to. You sleep next to them most of the time. They're with you far more than any of your friends are.
Yeah, it'd be good.
So
I think
how
it'd be good. I think I
important is
might do
that
it.
intimate relationship? And is there anything you would say in that relationship that you see amongst the happy people that you
Hell
don't?
yeah,
Do they
man.
travel together? Do they exercise together? Do they communicate more? Is there any of those sort of things in the intimate relationships? And is there a correlation?
Yeah. Well, first, let me say that you don't need an intimate relationship to get these benefits we're talking about.
Right.
So, because so many people are not partnered, and you can get all these benefits from friendships, family relationships, work relationships. But you're asking this great question, and one of the things we find is that the intimate relationships that are the strongest are relationships where people continue to see each other, right? So, it's very easy to think, well, I've been with this person
No
for 10,
fucking
20
way,
years.
really?
I know everything about them. I don't really have to pay close attention. And when they study this, they find that
Hell yeah, dude. He
the-
fucking the 4
the
liter.
time when we're most attuned
I'm amazed
to
because he's
another
super
person is
cut.
when
I don't know
we're
if he
first
cut
dating.
for that video or if he's
That
just
actually, if
fucking
you
ready
think
to
about it,
go.
because you're hanging on their every look and their every word.
I'm full of
because
water. I got a
you
lot
wanna
of
know,
water
are they
fat.
into me,
Not
right?
water
You're
fat,
curious.
but water plump.
Yeah, you're really curious. And then after 10,
Plump
20
with
years,
water.
we
I
are
learned
less
that
good
from
at
you guys.
knowing what our partner is feeling. So the thing that
Oh,
strong,
nice, man. Hell
intimate
yeah. Good. That's
partnerships
good.
cultivate
It's good for him to make
is
money, man.
watching and paying attention.
I was
to
a
each
pizza
other.
delivery guy in the past. I delivered
And
pizza.
this, what we call in the book,
good job.
radical curiosity.
Yes.
So one of my Zen teachers gave us this assignment in meditation, and it really applies to your partner too. He said, okay, when you're sitting on the cushion meditating, which you've done 1,000 times, your question for yourself is,
hilarious,
what's
bro.
here
The
that
gallon.
I've never noticed
A
before?
gallon water bottle.
And what if you sat down with your partner to dinner tonight and asked yourself, what's here right now between us that I have
Cool,
never
dude.
noticed before? And let yourself be that curious.
That's fun,
And so
man.
what we find is that kind of radical curiosity keeps relationships alive. And then the other thing that we find is that, you know, we are all constantly changing and evolving. There's a huge amount of change throughout our adult lives. So if you think about it, any two people in a relationship are constantly changing. Each of them is changing. So by definition, the relationship has to be changing. And what we find is that the strongest relationships are those where each person can embrace the other person's change, support the other person in changing, not try to suppress that change in the other person.
Whoa. Now that's interesting right there. That's interesting. I think that's a rewind for about a minute right there, everybody, because, you know, nothing breaks my heart more than when I'm in you're in a restaurant and you look over at a couple that's sitting at a table together. We've all seen this, and they'll sit for 30, 40 minutes and they're not even looking at each other.
Yeah.
They're like two strangers sitting on an airplane who don't even talk, and they're looking at their phone or they're looking around. And I find
She's like your second home was cool, man.
relationship is
It's
usually
cool,
the
dude.
one I'm looking
I've only been
at.
to like Houston
And what it
Airport.
is
I've
exactly
never been
what
to
you
the
said.
city.
They've lost curiosity.
Nice people in Houston.
And interesting, friends of mine that have split, they usually say one of two things.
Tell them
Either
that I
A,
recommend you
I don't
him.
know her anymore, or I don't
Cool,
know
man.
him
I'll,
anymore,
I mean,
or
I might
B,
be in the
I'm
stream. I
bored.
might say that in the
And
stream or
both of
something.
those are lack of curiosity. If you don't know somebody, you've taken years and years and years to not be curious
You know,
where they are,
dude,
vice versa. And being bored is the same thing.
your
It's
value,
assuming they're the
Christian,
same person. It's
is you,
assuming they've
Sandoval
got
Christian.
new
It's not.
thoughts
It's
or
not
emotions
who.
or needs.
It's not who you
And that's the
recommend.
formula. Okay, last thing on relationships.
Your
Sex.
value
Is there a correlation
to
between good
others
sex, lots of
is you.
sex, and happiness? Or there's
Really?
no connection whatsoever? And I actually
So
found out in
it's
your
like
study,
it's
turns
yeah,
out
it's
one
cool that you.
political party has better
I mean, yeah, you're the man for
sex
recommending me, but
You know,
than the other one.
he
so
will
my
like you
predecessor,
for who
George
you are.
Valiant, talked about that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes,
if
I know. Yes,
believe
you know,
that
man. You
finding.
know,
What he
we're
found, though,
fucking
tell him, what did he
higher
find?
level,
Just
man.
so my
Not
friends
higher
know.
level,
What did
but
he find?
of others.
I
Just
think he found that
Yeah, man.
people on the more liberal side of the spectrum had
But yeah,
better
I'll probably be
sex
in the
for
chat
longer
maybe
in their
and say, hey,
life.
That's what it
Sandoval,
said.
message me.
Just telling you guys.
No.
But
I
anyway,
mean,
Good
I'm
man,
not
too.
sure about that. So
Love you too, man.
please
No homo.
take
Nothing wrong with being
take that
homosexual.
finding with a grain of salt.
I'm
okay?
having fun with
But
it.
I'm not.
Yeah. But you know, we didn't. First of all, we didn't ask a lot about sex, and that may have been because of the kind of Victorian sensibilities of my predecessors. So at one point, we went to do home visits for our couples when they were around 80 years old.
Yeah, man. It'd be good to see
And
your stream,
our
but
young
if you could do
20-something interviewers, lovely,
with your
bright
phone?
people went and interviewed these people, and some of the couples
if you want to
said,
do like a
"You're
fitness
not
stream or
asking
whatever.
about sex. Why aren't you asking
Play
us
this
any
sometimes.
questions
Oh,
about
you
sex?
want
Don't
to show
think
the
we have sex
Overwatch,
anymore?"
right? That's cool,
And
man.
our
That's dope, dude.
20-something interviewers came back to our lab saying, "Oh my God, they're my grandparents' age, and they want me to ask them about sex." So, but what we do find is that sex is one component, that it does not have to be. So for some couples, sex is a vital, core part of their relationship. For some couples, it's not central. And that you can have a really warm,
Cool, man.
vibrant,
Thanks, man.
wonderful relationship.
Overwatch.
and
I'll look into
not
it.
much sex.
I have an
But
I have an
for other
Xbox
people,
One.
That would be a total
But
deal breaker. So
My
again, one
TV
size
is
doesn't
too
fit all.
slow
All right,
for
last thing. So you
first
had
person
out of this whole
shooters
study, like you said
in a
earlier, which is
competitive
fascinating. They grabbed this group of kids. One of them turns out to be the president
state.
of the United States.
I need
And some of
I need
them
pretty much a lag-free monitor,
didn't. And so what I'm wondering
I
about
got
the two
you.
groups, it's not really a happiness
so I
thing.
could
guess
play,
it's
but I would be
just
terrible.
connection.
I'd just get
Did the
destroyed.
people that started
Would it be fun?
at the overall more
Thanks, man.
privileged
I
position,
appreciate
or
it.
achieved position,
I want to. That'd be great.
did more of them build
I'm on
the
Xbox
external
One.
things in their life of
But
success?
I mean, I don't play
than the
much, and I.
people that started out in the. I know that there's no correlation.
It'd be cool to
difference in
maybe
happiness
stream
level,
it.
But I'm just curious. Does that even matter? Like a 19-year-old started out at Harvard, and a 19-year-old kid in South Boston
But I'd just
somewhere
get
who's,
destroyed. I'd be the worst player.
doesn't even have running water oftentimes in their home or electricity when
Yes.
this started.
Yes.
What happened to their lives? Just tell us about
I'm
their
honored,
lives.
man.
Les.
Thanks for inviting me, my man.
Well, let me give you a big picture finding, which is sad, which is that the Harvard men lived on average 10 years longer than the inner city men. And so privilege really matters. We think that has a lot to do with access to healthcare. We also found that 25 of the inner city guys went to college and finished college, which is unheard of for people from that background. Those 25 live just as long on average as the Harvard guys. And we don't think it was because of their college diploma. We think that education made a difference
Yes,
in
Christian.
these
Yes.
people's ability to kind of
Yes.
take in what we were learning in particularly the 60s, 70s, 80s, about the importance of not smoking, the cost of alcoholism, the cost of a sedentary lifestyle and obesity. So I think that it
Oh,
was
remember stuff me cool,
education
man.
that made them more
Thanks, dude.
likely to change their habits and start
Well, my
taking care
man,
of their
if you
health.
want
And
to,
that's why that's one big reason. But the
yeah, dude,
bottom
if you
line
want to
is that
learn about
privilege matters a lot for well-being, which is
finances
why
and
the
life
inequities in our
insurance,
society are so, I mean, they're
let me pause
disturbing
this for
for
a
so many
second.
other reasons, but they're disturbing because they're
I wasn't
hazardous
going to
to our
bring this up
health,
with
among other
you
things.
right now, but you literally just asked it, so I thought I would. Man, I can, I was actually going to reach out to you about if you wanted to have a financial services meeting with my supervisor, Andy Pham, in California. I actually just made a half-hour informative YouTube video explaining what we do, and so I work for a company called World Financial Group, which is not the middle person. You did, Baron. Yes, yes, Baron. Yes, yes, man. Anyways, yeah, it's just that's what I'm doing. Hell yeah, man. I want to get people started investing early. Yeah, that's why I put it up because someone recently posted that they are looking for something like a service like that, and I realized that I have the license to sell it, and not everybody has a license. Go follow my brother Josh. Hell yeah, go follow Josh, man. Thanks, Baron. So yeah, like I mean, I could put the video up right now. I mean, I might as well. Might as well. Thanks, dudes. But what I want to do, Sandoval, Christian, is I want to invite you to a 1 hour free Zoom meeting with someone that makes like over $150,000 a year in California in life insurance and investments. Be right back. Call me. Okay, no worries, buddy. No worries. Take your time. Yeah. Thanks, Baron. That's it, man. So we're not even the middle person, right? So like I'm not gonna bring up the presentation. I just want to bring up a couple points that I talk about that I really want to emphasize. I'll add the photo. Like how it works is we're not the middle person at all. We're literally just the advisor. And so if you were to go and to these companies, which I mean, like you can, if you want to purchase these, but what we do, we build like a overall plan, so we might apply to like 3, 4, 5 companies at once. You know what I mean? Where is it? So we're not even the middle person. We don't even touch the money of the client at all, which I think is really kind of crucial to emphasize. Thanks, Baron. Right? I think this figure alone really says a lot, because so we have the client, and the client buys the services from the insurance company directly. So what we do is over Zoom, if you want to purchase whatever investments, we do it through the company, and then you pay directly to the insurance company that's been around for 100 years. And then if there was a payout in a past, someone passing away or some sort of critical illness or disability, it would be directed directly into your bank account, not World Financial Group's bank account, yours, at tax-free. And so then we get paid by the fucking insurance companies as like a commission. So all we do, we give the advice, we submit all the paperwork. What we want to do, we want to get started early, you know what I mean? And yeah, Baron, yeah, I was thinking you too, man. I was going to message you. Yeah, buddy, I was going to message you about that with all those videos all in one, and the actual presentation, the PDF presentation, the 18 slides. I mean, I would, I guess we're talking about it now. I would definitely, I'm planning to send a message to you asking if you want to meet Andy Pham. Oh, right, you saw the video, so you saw Andy Pham. Yeah, he's the guy that, we met in Miami, and yeah, he's making good money, man. Like, really good money. And his team is growing. He's been in it for 13 years. He knows. So what he can do is he can sell products in the United States, which is huge for me. That's like the best. But what was I going to say? Yeah, so I mean, I like expect a message from me, my man. I think really the important thing of those videos is that it helps change my identity. I mean, obviously to help you. Thanks, man. Thanks, buddy. Obviously to help you guys, but like, it's really right now, it's kind of to change my identity. Because everyone at the start, like, I've had a very slow start to this. But one, how can you recommend something if you're not certain of what it is? And two, how can you convince someone that you know what you're talking about when you have nothing to show that you know what you're talking about? Right? You know what I mean? So it's like, what do you... Everyone's like, oh yeah, just tell them to come to this meeting. So what are you talking about? I don't even know what I'm talking about. So now it makes much more sense, and yeah, I think it'd be good. But thanks, man. Thanks, dude. I might make another just random videos, but I might not. Those might be just ones to share and get them appointments with meetings. Yeah, I think that's the way. I'm not gonna take it too emotionally. I'm gonna take it very just. We got some good products. We can do some investing, some planning. Just some planning helps a lot. We sell what banks don't sell. We sell like insured investments and life. Like, we tax shelter, especially in the United States, with the volatile market. So the United States market is a lot more volatile than the Canadian market. There's a lot more ups and downs. You could see 20% gains in a year. You could see 20% losses in a year. Not back-to-back years. That's like the 20% loss, like 2008 and 2021. And the 20% gains is fucking some like the NASDAQ market in 2010 to 2020 was insane. Upwards of like above 10-15% return. So you can get like indexed, so you don't lose money, but you need a higher capital up front, like $25,000 to get into like a Roth IRA, Roth individual retirement account. But we don't need the Roth to even get high returns on investments, right? Like that participation rates thing I was talking about is like funds. They want people's money in the fund, so they give incentives when the fund is kind of low. So so when they micromanage those high incentive, low capital funds, you can get like they can get like over 10%, 12%, 15% even, because you're micromanaging all those little participation rates. You get multiplication factors of the interest rate of the fund. So if you get like a 40-50% multiplication of 8, that fund could go to 12. That's like really cool stuff. So anyways, yeah, that's it, man. And it's clear I don't know what I'm talking about yet. It's all Andy, man. I'm gonna be honest. I've done no work yet. But thanks, bro. Thanks for watching, man. And listening. That means a lot. I'm really changing just my, yeah. I need to convince others and myself that I know what I'm talking about. But I can't over conclude. That's why I'm always just like, I don't really know what I'm talking about. Because I don't. Kind of. You know what I'm thinking of doing? The video? You know what video I want to do? I want to do a video called The Top 12. I found a PDF article, like a news article released called The Top 12 Most Dangerous Jobs, or the most jobs with the highest lethality in the United States. And just me talking over reading the article, with the article kind of on screen, and sharing my story halfway through about my injury, and the importance of having life insurance and shit halfway through the video. But really making like heartfelt, and because I think number 6 or 7 was truck driver, and number 8 was waste collections person, and that was me. I was a hazardous waste collections truck driver. So, yeah, I think it'd be good, make for a good video. But then it's like the motive for me making the videos wasn't to grow my YouTube channel; it was to share with friends. It's gonna be my work thing. That like it's not a hey look at me video. It's a look at the products, right? Okay, thanks, man. You're the man, dude.
Well, not only is it healthcare, but it's nutritional food, nutritious food. It's access to those things. It's safety and shelter. It's probably, I would imagine, and again, I'm just projecting here, but a level of constant stress. Maybe not the same external stressors happen to the more privileged group. But I just think overall, I just want to tell you, I think you're fascinating, and I think this work is just so important. And by the way, everybody, the book is called The Good Life. Again, lessons from the world's longest scientific study of happiness. It's the most fascinating thing I've ever seen. And I know you'll have someone take over for you at some point as well. I hope that continues with the trip. I hope that's not for a long time. But I want to thank you for the time today. And it's made me, I just want to tell you, sometimes it's not even the work that you're reading. Sometimes it's the work that you're reading causes you just to reflect on yourself, the topic itself. And I want to tell you that both the work was fascinating to me, but the causing of self-reflection on my part about my own happiness level was priceless for me in my life. And I'm very, very grateful to you and all your predecessors for the work.
That is music to my ears, because what we most hope for from the book is that it will get people to think about their own lives and do some things that will make them happier and healthier.
Well, that's exactly what it did for me. So thank you so much. Continue to do this great work.
Great. Thank you so much. This was a fabulous discussion.
I enjoyed it so much today. This was wonderful. Hey, everybody. We're the #1 show in the world right now because you share it. And if there's anybody you know that needs to be happier, which is everybody that you know, please share today's episode with them. Make sure you go grab The Power of One More, my book. Go grab The Good Life by Dr. Waldinger.
Man, we
You'll be
might
happier.
watch
God
that
bless
Joe
you,
Dispenza
everybody.
talk
Max out
again
your
that we
life.
saw last night. It was that good. Because I don't even remember what he was like. I mean, I do remember, but I am not enough mentality. Yeah.
What causes someone to not know their mission and miss it? Is it they spend too much time in the former story? That they've taken meanings that don't serve them from the story?
There's really 3 fears that I've identified, which is the fear of failure, the fear of success, and the fear of judgment. I was so driven to succeed.
Wow, hell yeah, this
because
is
I didn't
fucking
feel
great.
enough.
Yes.
And I thought
Fear
by
of
succeeding
judgment.
would fill the hole of not
Fear of
feeling
succeeding.
enough. Even when I broke the world record.
Damn,
even when I was
man.
a 2-sport
Let's
All-American.
fucking-
Even when I played the
let's
USA
go.
handball team. Even when I hit my first $1 million after I was broke. I was so self-critical because at the root cause of all 3 of these fears is I am not enough. Gosh. And the I am not enoughness will destroy us. It will hold us back from our truest gifts, from expressing our love, from being generous, from being open. That's the thing that I had to learn how to heal. Why do I not feel enough? No matter what I accomplish, I still don't feel enough. Why am I never satisfied with me? I need to accomplish more in order for others to love and accept me. But really, at the end of the day, I did not love and accept myself. And when we can learn the art of loving and accepting ourselves authentically for all of our flaws and all of our beauty, that's when we can start stepping into true greatness.
I don't know. I might change this. I might change this.
Welcome back, everybody. Today's going to be awesome. I got a great friend here. Someone I'm very, very proud of and very fond of. I have great affection for this man. I admire him, makes me emotional, and I respect him. And I think probably in my life the last 5-6 years, he's potentially grown more as a person than anybody that I know. And I loved him and thought he was amazing when I met him. And this is a guy in the pursuit of greatness. And it just so happens he's got a new book out called The Greatness Mindset. Unlock the power of your mind and live your best life today. This man's immensely qualified to talk on this topic. Lewis Howes, welcome, brother.
Thanks, Ed. Appreciate it, brother.
Good to have you. You all know Lewis probably, but if you
The
don't,
book, we gotta write a
he's
book,
passed 10
man.
years with his podcast. He's already a New York
We
Times
gotta
bestselling
write a
author.
book.
And I'm grateful you wrote the book because you've been studying
We should write
greatness
the
up
book.
close
I was
now
thinking
for
writing
about
the
a
book, the
decade.
memes
I want
of the
people to know this
of
about
the
you.
pandemic, and just each
Sarah
page
giving you
be just be like a
synchronicities
meme
that I think you bring
that's
to so many
saved from my
platforms. There's
computer. The
tens
thousands of
millions
pandemic
people that
memes
watch
I
and listen
have.
to you every week on multiple platforms, and because they watch and listen, magic happens in their life. And I'm sure you hear it and see it, and they send it a lot, but I don't know if everyone sends it enough. And so I want you, if you're watching or listening right now, if something happens today that is a serendipitous moment, is a synchronicity, maybe when something happens in your life, you're always like, oh, I'm going in the right direction. Maybe it's like you see a penny, or you see a butterfly, or you see some symbol, or someone says something to you, or someone in your life calls you, and when that happens, something good happens. Like, pay attention today when you're listening to this moment. And anytime you're watching or listening to Ed, and send him a message again saying there was a synchronicity because of you today. And when synchronicities happen, you need to listen, pay attention, and take action. And the moment you met Martha, my girlfriend, I guess it was last week, a week and a half ago, and you met her in a moment of prayer, was the moment you met her. You literally were holding her hand, and you were like, nice to meet you, while we were praying for a friend of ours in this moment. I won't say what was happening, but one of our friends was going through a moment that needed a lot of support and prayer. And you grabbed her hands, and you said, nice to meet you. I'm sorry it's happening in this moment. And later, after the event, we were like, wow, there was a synchronicity that happened before this months ago, because I was in Maui with Martha, and I was about to make a big decision. And I remember saying, who's a mentor I could check in on and ask about this? That's why I think it's really important to enlist support and not try to do it all on your own. Like, find the mentors that you look up to. You're someone I really look up to, and I value your wisdom and your knowledge. And I was been planning to take a big investment for, I don't know, 6 months. I was thinking about this, researching it, planning it. And I go, and I'm with Martha, I go, I think I just need to call someone and like double check, someone who could give me some feedback on this. And I call you, and I'm like kind of walking around by myself, like in the grass by the hotel room. And then she comes up maybe like 5-10 minutes later, and I'm gonna have it on speaker so she can listen to the end of the conversation. And you said something to me. You said this is a divine intervention.
That's right.
That's what you said. You go, this is a divine intervention. You know, that you're calling me at this moment because something just came up. And if you called me 2 days ago, it wouldn't have happened. So this is divine intervention. And she's looking at me. She goes, because the night before we said, she did a prayer. She said, God, guide our steps in this decision. Give us a sign. She literally said, I'm giving chills. She goes, give us a sign for Lewis to be clear that this is the right decision to make. Because for months, it felt like it was the right decision. And something was off. I was like, I don't know, like maybe, maybe not. And she said, God, give us a clear sign that this is the right decision. And then the next morning I call you and you say, this is divine intervention. And I'm like, we're both kind of like jump back. And then months later, you meet her in prayer. And I'm like getting chills thinking about this because there's just synchronicities that happen in life. And when they happen to you, pay attention. And so that's why, another reason why I'm so grateful for you, because you've brought, even though we've only hung out, I don't know, 7-8 times, maybe in 5 years, maybe a dozen times, and I only had a handful of conversations, I truly value every interaction that I have. And there's always divine intervention every time I get to connect with you. So if you're listening or watching right now, please pay attention to the signs that are in your life when you're listening to this podcast or watching a clip or our video. Use it, because not everyone's going to get a chance to speak to you the way I do. Not everyone has that opportunity, but they have the opportunity to hear your wisdom on the show. Pay attention to the divine intervention when you're listening to this show and any show that Ed ever does, and make sure you are following the signs.
Wow, brother, that is a beautiful story. Thank you for telling me.
Yeah, of course.
So good. I want to start somewhere interesting, which is the dedication of the book.
Okay.
You dedicated the book to you. But there's a reason, and I want you to share it, because I think this is the ultimate pursuit of greatness. Actually, you dedicated it to the younger you.
Yep.
Why?
I think we criticize ourselves and our younger selves too much. I think we live in shame, beat up, and we don't forgive our younger selves for all the bad things, all the things that we did to hurt ourselves and hurt others. And so over the last couple of years on my healing journey, I had a photo of my 5-year-old self for about a year on my phone. And it wasn't to be narcissistic or anything like that. It was, an emotional coach gave me an exercise and said, you've still got some wounds you got to heal. And I want you to go back and have a different relationship and create meaning from those painful memories in a supportive, loving, compassionate way towards your younger self. And so I spent a year, kind of when I was writing this book, doing this healing journey of the different psychological phases of my life. Bringing it closer right now, I've got a photo of my 17-year-old self.
Look at that.
I don't know where the camera is, maybe it's over there, but it's kind of like when I was 17 in high school.
Yeah.
And I'm going to St. Louis tomorrow to see our mutual friend, but I'm also going to my alma mater, my high school, where this photo was taken.
Are you really?
So I'm on this journey of going back to all the painful memories, the things I'm proud of and the things I'm not proud of, from as far back as I can until now. And I'm trying to marry those ages to now to be peaceful, to be kind, and to be compassionate to myself. And also take full accountability for all the different things that I was proud of and not proud of. And so I didn't know how this dedication would come off. I was like, maybe people might take this the wrong way. But I wanted to honor my younger self for getting me through the pain, the problems, the challenges, and getting me here without having all the tools, without having the wisdom, the experience, the knowledge, and by having to overcome so much. I wanted to honor my younger self.
I think it's beautiful, and because I know you so well, I knew the intention of it, but I wanted to make sure my audience did too. Do you think, this is going to get good real quick, because you're qualified to talk about this. So you've done this work about
healing the former you, and you've been open about the fact that there was some sexual abuse issues in your life, and you hid those for so long, and the freedom that it created for you by just expressing it and being vulnerable and authentic about it. How does someone nuance? Or do they have to? I got to kind of create the right meaning from my past, at the same time not live there,
Right.
and begin to live greatly now. That nuance. And you talk about these different stages actually in the